Tuesday night, fog pressing in from the bay, the kind that turns streetlights into halos. Inside Mariner's table, one of those San Francisco spots where the check arrives like a plot twist. Conversation is a hush. Silverware, a metronome. Nobody raises their voice here. They raise an eyebrow. At table 14 sits a 10-year-old boy with braces running up his legs like chrome vines. Ethan Hartman. If you met his eyes, you'd feel that small crack in your chest, the one reserved for when a kid learns too early what the world expects. His hands tremble at rest, not from weakness, but from the effort of holding himself smaller. Next to him, Daniel Hartman, venture titan, the man behind Hartman Equity, a mirror-polished empire of glass and exits. Tonight is the first time since the wreck, 2 years back, that he's brought Ethan out to dinner. Not because Ethan couldn't come sooner, but because Daniel couldn't. Pity and whispers are noise he can't price in. Nia Brooks glides between tables with the soft efficiency of someone who knows the map of the room better than her own apartment. Navy server jacket, hair pulled into a neat puff, sneakers that pass for dress shoes if you don't look too close. She's the only black server on the floor and knows how invisibility works. Keep the plates level, the smile present, the opinion sheathed. She sets down Ethan's ginger ale. With a lime, chef's orders, says it looks fancy. Ethan's mouth tugs up. He doesn't look at the metal hugging his knees. He looks at Nia, like she's the one person who didn't flinch. A pianist in the corner drifts into an old Sam Cooke tune that sneaks around the room like perfume. Something in Ethan lifts its head. It isn't bravado. It's smaller and tougher. The wish to move, to exist outside the chair. His hand shakes, but this time it's not fear. He turns, searching. Finds Nia. He raises his hand. Silence falls the way it only falls around money. Stems pause midair. A senator at table 3 stops mid-sentence. Every gaze lands on the boy's lifted hand as if a spotlight had snapped on. The manager, Peterson, with his crisp tie and tighter jaw, steps in fast. "Mr. Hartman," he murmurs, not murmuring at all, "please keep your son seated. This isn't a ballroom." Color rises up Daniel's neck. "Ethan," he says, voice even, "sit." Nia looks from Peterson to Daniel to Ethan's hand, still hovering, still hopeful. The math is ugly. A paycheck. A man who could crush a career with one bored phone call. A child asking the smallest big thing. She unties her apron, folds it once, sets her tray on a side station. "My break," she says, meeting Peterson's eyes. Effective immediately. Daniel stands so quickly, his chair skates. "What do you think you're doing?" "Accepting an invitation?" Nia says, as if it's the most ordinary sentence in the world. She takes Ethan's hand. "You lead, Captain." The first step is brutal. Ethan's brace kisses the polished floor with a scrape that ripples through the room. A collective wince, the kind people pretend is empathy when it's really discomfort meeting its reflection. Nia doesn't steer him, doesn't whisper counts. She matches his pace like a shadow, letting him find it. "Tomorrow she's gone," someone hisses near the raw bar. But something starts to shift. Ethan's eyes first. Shame loosens its grip, replaced by focus, then pride, the fragile, stubborn kind that grows when no one is fixing you. 3 steps. Imperfect, hesitant, true. 3 steps that recalibrate the room's gravity. Daniel is no longer in Mariner's table. He's in a smaller kitchen, 2 birthdays ago, where his wife, Lily, swung their boy around to Otis Redding. Socks on tile, laughter thick as honey. 6 months after the crash, Lily was gone, an aneurysm that didn't negotiate. He built a fortress after that. Schedules, teams, specialists, silence. He mistook quiet for safety. Mr. Hartman, Peterson whispers, urgent. This breach of standards. But Daniel hears it. Ethan's laugh. Not the polite one he learned for adults, but the unguarded kind that lives below words. It pulls something loose inside Daniel that contracts never reached. Nia walks Ethan back to his chair, like returning a crown. Thank you for the dance, she says to him, formal as a bow. You're a strong lead. She turns to leave. What's your full name? Daniel asks, and the question arrives stripped of power, almost shy. Nia Brooks, she says. She's steady, but her fingers tremble around the discarded apron. Daniel slides a card from his jacket, sets it on the linen like a challenge and a plea. My office. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. The room inhales again. Some people watch for spectacle. Some watch because they've remembered something human and don't know where to put it. Dad, Ethan says, eyes still bright. Why did you... Daniel looks at him, and for the first time in 2 years, really sees his son. Not a broken project, not a schedule, a person asking to lead. Across town in a walk-up studio with a view of an alley and a stubborn lemon tree in a pot, Nia slides a worn notebook from under her bed. Tabs made from paint chips. Pages of observations about kids like Ethan, fathers like Daniel, the architecture of cages you can't photograph. Plans, not schemes. Plans. At 9:59 the next morning, the lobby of Hartman Tower will try to swallow her with glass and marble. At 10 accounts, she will step out of the elevator anyway. And tonight, a city full of noise will go quiet, and a billionaire will stare at a business card he wrote 100 times before, but never meant, until a kid took 3 imperfect, beautiful steps and changed the price of what matters. The lobby of Hartman Tower looks like a museum that charges extra for breathing. 40 feet of glass and a reception desk that could land a helicopter. Nia checks her reflection in the elevator doors. Navy skirt, white blouse, loafers polished within an inch of their life. Her leather bag is scuffed but loyal. She takes a breath like a swimmer and steps into the current. Appointment? The receptionist asks, eyes flicking over Nia the way scanners pass over luggage. Nia Brooks, 10 a.m., with Mr. Hartman. A beat. Then the receptionist's smile engages like an automatic door. 29th floor. Ms. Rodriguez will escort you. Ms. Rodriguez appears in a suit that could file its own taxes. This way. The walk down the corridor is a runway of quiet judgment. Glass walls, framed IPO announcements, a living moss wall that probably has a publicist. Rodriguez finally breaks the silence. Just so we're clear, Mr. Hartman is extremely busy. Be concise. I'm not here to waste his time, Nia says. Rodriguez glances sideways. You already did last night. The corner office is a small country. Floor-to-ceiling windows make San Francisco look domesticated. Daniel stands with his back to them, hands in his pockets, posture carved out of apology and control. Ms. Brooks, he says without turning. Then he does, studying her like a document. Thanks for coming. Thanks for inviting me. She sets her bag on the visitor chair, doesn't sit. He lets silence do the intimidation. She lets it pass by. What's your background? He asks at last. Undergrad in child development from Cal State East Bay, Nia says evenly. Graduate coursework in special education. Had to pause. Life, rent, the usual Bay Area fairy tales. His eyebrow ticks. And you wait tables. I work. I also run an adaptive dance program in Bayview. Shoestring budget, real outcomes. She meets his eyes. Your office ignored our grant application last spring. From a drawer, Daniel pulls a manila folder. New steps, he says, reading. Operating out of a converted warehouse near 3rd Street. He thumbs through printed photos. Hand-painted posters. Kids in braces and wheelchairs moving to a beat only they need to hear. You and your sister incorporated it 4 years ago. Donor base small. Lease up in 6 months. Correct. He closes the folder like a verdict. Work for me. Nia blinks. Doing what? Exactly? Be a companion to Ethan. The word companion lands with a thud. You got him to lead. None of the therapists did. I can pay you 5 times what you make now. Nia tries not to laugh. I'm not a companion. And your son doesn't need an employee whose loyalty you can buy. My son needs results. The veneer cracks. A tired, scared father peeks through. I've hired the best. There's still a gap. Yesterday, he smiled. Really smiled. He swallows. I haven't heard that laugh since before the accident. Nia softens, then steadies. What you're calling a gap is control. You've built Ethan a beautiful cage. He needs room to be bad at things in public. He needs to decide. And you think a dance club in a warehouse is the answer? It's a studio, not a club. And it's a method. Non-directive movement autonomy. We meet kids where they are and follow. The brain rewires when ownership shows up. He looks at the skyline because it's easier than looking at himself. Take the job. Name your number. No. The word lands clean. Rodriguez, somewhere behind the door, actually gasps. Daniel staggers on a smile. Pride won't pay your lease. Dignity might, Nia says. And I won't model for Ethan that people can be purchased. He steps closer, running on instinct and habit. You turned a dining room into a stage and my life into a headline risk. You don't get to moralize. I turned a kid's ask into a yes. The rest is your fear talking. They stare each other down until the air thins. Nia reaches into her bag and sets a business card on his desk. Thin, off-white, printed at a neighborhood shop. New steps, community studio. 2s, Thurs, 4 p.m. First session, free. Bring Ethan, she says. If he hates it, you'll never hear from me again. If he doesn't, you're welcome to watch. No press, no photo ops, no rescue narrative. And if I show up with security and lawyers, then you'll be the only dad in a room full of kids who don't need any of that, Nia says, picking up her bag. 4 o'clock tomorrow. He doesn't stop her as she leaves. The door clicks, leaving him with the folder, the view, and the echo of a laugh that refuses to be archived. In Bayview, that afternoon, Nia unlocks the studio. The place smells like rubber mats and citrus cleaner. Hand-lettered signs curl at the corners. Your pace, your power. Maya arrives, balancing a Home Depot box and a latte. So, did the glass palace spit you out or swallow you whole? Neither, Nia says, flipping on the speaker. He offered me a job. Maya's eyes fire. You said no. Of course I said no. Maya exhales. And now? Now we mop. We tape the corner mat. We tune the playlist. And at 3:55 we stand at the door and try not to watch the clock. At 3:58, a Bentley ghosts to the curb out front, black paint swallowing the afternoon. Through the tinted glass, 2 silhouettes sit like indecision made human. Maya whispers, he won't come in. People like that send people. Nia watches the door unlock. The rear passenger opens first. Ethan swings his legs out. Braces clicking softly against the step. He looks up at the sign, then at Nia, who was already smiling. The driver's door opens next. Daniel steps out in jeans that don't know him yet, and a hoodie that fails, to make him smaller. He pockets the keys like he's tucking away his armor. Nia lifts a hand. "You're right on time," she says. Ethan beams back. Daniel hesitates, caught between reputation and possibility. "House rule," Nia says, holding the door wide. "Whoever leads chooses the first song." Ethan rolls forward, fingers already reaching for the speaker. Daniel stands on the threshold, the city at his back, the warehouse humming with kids who don't need him to fix them. He takes one step inside. New Steps looks like a miracle someone built with duct tape and grit. Exposed beams, strings of cafe lights, scuffed marley floor patched at the edges with gaffer tape. A shelf of kid-sized sneakers sits next to a milk crate of foam rollers. On the wall, a hand-painted mural of feet, all shapes, sizes, skin tones, stepping in different directions. In block letters above, "Your pace, your power." Ethan rolls in first, eyes everywhere at once. A girl in a power wheelchair spins slow circles, palms fluttering like birds. A teen with a carbon fiber prosthetic taps heel to toe in a rhythm that's more heartbeat than dance step. Two little boys build a path out of painter's tape, arguing about whether it should curve or zigzag. "Shoes off if you want," Nia says. "Braces on or off, your call. We follow the body, not the rules." She crouches to Ethan's eye level, voice easy, not careful. "You pick the opener." Ethan grins, scrolls through the playlist, and, because the universe has a sense of humor, lands on Otis Redding. The first notes of "These Arms of Mine" thread the room like warm honey. Daniel hovers near the wall, arms folded, trying to look like he's not guarding himself. Maya offers him a metal folding chair with a cushion that says, "Please relax," in cheerful letters. He declines, then takes it anyway. "Group rule number 1, Nia calls, clapping once. "Nobody gets corrected. You can copy someone. You can invent something. You can also sit and breathe, and that counts." Hands go up. A little boy in dinosaur pajamas asks, "Can I roar?" "Obviously," Nia says. "Roars are movement." She glances back at Ethan. "Captain, what's our first move?" He thinks, glances at his legs, and lifts his right hand instead, fingers making a cautious wave. Nia mirrors it. The girl in the chair adds a wrist circle. The teen taps once, twice. The room becomes a loop of small decisions, each person adding, no one erasing. Ethan straightens, taller by an inch you can't measure. Daniel's jaw loosens. He notices strange things. The way Nia never fills silences for kids. The way she names what they did instead of what they should do. The way she laughs with her whole face when the dinosaur roar arrives right on beat. He also notices a scar on Ethan's shin he somehow missed. Thin and silvery. The kind that says this healed without witnesses. A private shame crawls up his neck. He rubs at it like it's a stain you can scrub out. Break time. Maya passes around Dixie cups of water and a bowl of clementines. The teen with the prosthetic, Jax, drifts over to Ethan. "Your braces look like Iron Man," he says, totally sincere. Ethan lights up. They scrape the floor. "It's loud." "Loud is power," Jax says, like a maxim. "Want to try my step?" They shuffle to a taped line, comparing hardware the way other kids compare baseball cards. Daniel exhales, a sound caught between relief and grief. "Hardest part's never the kid," Maya says softly, settling into the next chair. "It's the adult who loves them." Daniel bristles on reflex. "I've loved him right." "No doubt," Maya says, You also built a panic room around him. Love does that when it's scared. He bites down on a reply and tastes metal. Across the room, Nia crouches next to Ethan as he experiments with an off-balance pivot. She doesn't warn him. She moves her own center lower, gives him a target to reach. He reaches. He wobbles. He laughs. Why dance? Daniel asks without looking at Maya. Why not therapy? I can quantify. You can quantify this, Maya says. You just have to look at different numbers. As if on cue, the door clanks and an older black woman walks in, leaning on a carved cane that looks like it has stories. Silver hair woven into neat twists, eyes bright and assessing. Nia's face cracks into pure respect. Dr. Johnson, she calls. You made it. Daniel turns. Recognition hits like a cold wave. Patricia Johnson? His voice comes out hoarse. From UCSF? You wrote the paper on motor planning through improvisation. She smiles with half her mouth. Wrote a few papers. They don't move on their own. She taps her cane, surveys the room. This does. Nia gestures her over. We're piloting data sheets this week, she says. Try the new scoring rubric. Dr. Johnson pulls a tablet from a leather sleeve. You finally stopped waiting for permission. Nia lifts a shoulder. The grant applications weren't writing back. Daniel sits up straighter, the investor in him waking despite himself. You're collecting data? Structured observation, Dr. Johnson says. Latency to initiate, frequency of self-selected movement, effect markers, peer initiation. We're tracking agency, Mr. Hartman. That's the thing your son did last night that money couldn't buy. He opens his mouth, closes it again. Class winds toward a cool down. Kids lie on their backs and watch the cafe lights tremble. Nia's voice is soft but not sweet. Name one thing your body did today that surprised you. Roared, the pajama kid says immediately. Spun, the girl in the chair says. Did a step without holding, Jack says, and Ethan's head jerks. Me too, on the tip of his tongue. He swallows the urge to perform and just says, I chose. It hangs in the room like a bell tone. After, shoes and braces go back on. Parents drift in, out. Someone drops a quarter in the donation box, taped to a mason jar. The playlist moves to silence. At the door, Daniel clears his throat. Thank you, he says to Nia, and the words are weirder in his mouth than any term sheet. He was different. He was himself, Nia says. We just gave him space. Daniel fishes for a checkbook, realizes it's 2025, and he doesn't carry one. What do you need? Mats? Rent? Whatever it is. Nia holds up a hand. Don't buy your way into the room, she says. Bring yourself back on Thursday. Sit and let him lead. Start there. His phone buzzes. Rodriguez. PR wants to discuss last night. Also, reporter sniffing around about the dance incident. Please advise. He pockets it without answering. Ethan tugs his sleeve. Can we come back? Daniel looks at his son, who is still pulsing with quiet pride, and hears himself say, Yes, you'll lead again. Nia watches their backs as they head to the car. Maya nudges her. You really told a billionaire not to donate. He can donate, Nia says, wiping a spot on the mirror with the edge of her t-shirt, but not before he learns how to stay. Across the street, the Bentley idles. Daniel's thumbs hover over a message to Peterson and to his PR chief. He deletes both drafts. Instead, he texts one person, Lily's sister. Brought him to a place he likes. You would have loved it. He stops, surprised at his own confession, and hits send. Back inside, Dr. Johnson taps her tablet. It's happening, Nia. It's small, Nia says, glancing up at the mural. But small things move the earth. Thursday, Dr. Johnson says. Let's see if small scales. Outside, a breeze kicks up from the bay, rattling the cafe lights just enough to make the room look like it's breathing. By 8 a.m., the Hartman Tower boardroom is a terrarium for panic. PR, legal, operations, 12 people, and one agenda contained last night. The wall screen shows a paparazzi blog post titled, "Billionaire's Son Causes Scene at $700 Dinner." The photo is grainy, but Ethan's braces gleam like headlights. Not accurate, Daniel says, jaw tight. Accurate doesn't trend, PR replies. We recommend a short statement. Private family dinner. Respect our privacy. Also, stop going to that restaurant for a while. Legal ads. And avoid any non-clinical programs. Liability, waivers, optics. Daniel looks at the table, then out at the city. He's going back to New Steps today. The room bristles. Sir, with respect, Daniel says, voice flat. My son led for the first time in 2 years. We'll sign whatever waiver they hand us. Draft something that doesn't insult common sense. Rodriguez blinks, recalculating. I'll prepare documents. He wants to dismiss the room, but he forces himself to add, also, don't contact that studio. If anyone reaches out, it'll be me. It feels like breaking a bad habit in real time. Across town, Nia wakes to a voicemail from Peterson, clipped and polite like a folded knife. Ms. Brooks, given last night's deviation from protocol, we won't be needing you on the schedule. Your final check is available. She listens twice, then deletes it. The loss stings. Rent is rent, but relief unfurls right behind it. She pours cheap coffee into a chipped mug and flips open the notebook from under her bed. Tabs labeled Agency, Parents, Press. She taps Press, then closes the book again. Not yet, she tells herself. Not for the story she wants. At the studio, Maya is already on a ladder, zip-tying the cafe lights. You look like someone canceled a shift and handed you a purpose, she says, grinning. Got fired and promoted, Naya says, rolling out the Marley. It's fine. I wanted Saturdays back anyway. Dr. Johnson arrives with a tote bag and a scholar's impatience. We finalized the rubric, she says, dropping a printed sheet on the front desk. Let's track latency to initiate, plus a simple self-report. Did I choose? We'll keep it to clipboards, Nia says. This is not a lab. It is a lab, Dr. Johnson counters. And a church and a playground. Language can multitask. She softens, touching Nia's sleeve. You okay? I'm unemployed and weirdly buoyant, Nia says. So yes. At 3:40, parents start drifting in. There's a hum to the room, a sense of expected weather. Jax arrives first, clacking his prosthetic against the doorframe for luck. The pajama kid from Tuesday shows up in a cape. The girl, in the chair, sports glow-in-the-dark nail polish, proud as a billboard. At 3:54, Maya peeks through the blinds. Bentley at 6 o'clock, she says. And, oh. What oh? Nia asks. Reporter hair, Maya says. 2 cameras. Local news van. She steps off the stool. Did you? No, Nia says, too fast. But we knew someone would bite eventually. Dr. Johnson's mouth goes thin. We can manage. We have release forms for the families who've signed. Anyone who hasn't, cameras stay out. Nia rubs a smudge off the mirror and feels her stomach flip anyway. She hates the idea of turning kids into proof. She also knows sunlight can grow things money won't touch. The studio door opens. Ethan first, eyes bright and a little wild like he sprinted all the way from the car. Daniel follows in a plain black tee, and the same expensive watch he always forgets to take off. He pauses, clocking the cameras on the sidewalk. "We can reschedule," he says quickly. Nia shakes her head. "We don't rearrange life for optics here. We set boundaries and we dance." Daniel nods, exhales. "Boundaries I can do." "House rule," Nia calls, voice warm and firm. "We only record kids whose grown-ups signed the release and the kid says yes too. Otherwise, this is a camera-free zone. We're serious." Parents drift to the sign-in table. Maya slides forms across with the ease of a stage manager. The pajama cape kid's mom signs without looking. She'd sign for the moon if it meant her son kept roaring. A couple of families shake their heads, and Maya slaps bright orange no filming stickers on their shirts like shields. Ethan leans into Daniel. "Can we still do the first song rule?" "You're the captain," Daniel says, and means it. Ethan scrolls. He stops on a track Daniel recognizes immediately. Lily's old favorite, the one she played while flipping pancakes on Sundays. His chest pinches and then warms. He nods. "All right, captains," Nia says, clapping once. "New folks, same rule as Tuesday. Nobody gets corrected. You can copy, you can invent, and breathing is movement." She turns the volume up. The first chords pour into the room, and the air changes. Looser, thicker, brave. Through the front windows, a reporter lifts her mic, speaking to camera under the glow of the van's umbrella light. Dr. Johnson steps outside to intercept, cane planted like punctuation. Inside, the kids form a loose ring, eyes on Ethan. "What's our first move?" Nia asks. Ethan lifts his foot a half-inch, hesitates, then sets it down, listening to the scrape. He smiles at the noise like it's a friend. He tries again, higher this time, testing balance without grabbing for anything. Jax whispers, loud as power, and the ring giggles. Daniel is already moving to steady him on reflex. Nia catches his eye and shakes her head once. "Wait," she mouths. He freezes, hands at his sides, every muscle arguing with the lesson he's trying to learn. Ethan inhales, finds something only he can feel, and begins to shift his weight. And the studio door swings wider as a camera light flares against the glass. The flare splashes the mirrors like lightning. Half the kids flinch. One covers his ears. Nia's voice arrives before panic does. "Freeze where you are. Breathe. This is still our room." Maya is already at the door, palm out. "Hey, no filming inside, unless a kid and their grown-up said yes. Orange stickers mean cameras off." The reporter steps across the threshold anyway, all smile and teeth. "We're doing a human interest piece. 2 minutes of B-roll." Dr. Johnson plants her cane like a stop sign. "Consent is not B-roll. Back it up, dear." Behind them, Daniel starts forward, corporate reflex twitching to life. Manage, mitigate, move problems out of the way. Nia shakes her head once. "Hold your post, Dad. If Ethan looks at you and sees fear, he'll borrow it." Daniel locks his knees like a soldier at parade rest. Ethan's eyes are on Nia, not the door. "First move," she prompts softly, as if the world hasn't changed temperature. He lifts his foot again, higher than before. The brace skates with a small scrape, and he steadies, not on a hand, not on a bar, but by finding center like a secret. He sets the foot down. He grins. "Loud as power," he whispers, more to himself than to Jax. The kids closest to him copy the micro shift, up, scrape, down, until the room becomes a chorus of tiny thunderclaps. Fear turns into rhythm you can count. Outside the door, the reporter recalibrates. "Mr. Hartman," she calls through the gap, scenting the bigger headline. Is this your program's first celebrity student? Maya holds the line. No questions inside the studio. Daniel takes a breath like he's stepping into cold water and looks at Nia. She nods. Your choice, your boundary. He slips outside and pulls the door to the first latch, leaving a sliver of glass between him and Ethan. Cameras swing. The mic floats up. Daniel can feel the old performance rising. Polish, pivot, deflect. He sets it down. We're here because my kid likes to move, he says, voice flat and human. This place lets him do it without being corrected. That's the story. Is it true your foundation previously declined to fund this, warehouse dance club? The reporter asks, sweetness sharpening. It's a studio, Dr. Johnson corrects from his elbow, eyebrow raised. The reporter keeps her eyes on the prey. Daniel could say he doesn't know. He could blame staff. He hears Lily in his head, unimpressed. He chooses different. We passed on a proposal last spring, he says. I didn't understand it then. I'm learning. Are you here to fix your image? She presses. He almost laughs. No, I'm here to watch my son take his own steps. You can film the sign outside. You can't film kids without consent. That's the boundary. The reporter blinks. Boundaries aren't ratings gold. She softens the smile, recalibrating to community hero mode. Could we at least get a shot of the space? Not today, Daniel says. You can schedule a visit with the director. He nods toward Nia through the glass. On her terms. Inside, Nia keeps the music low, the room tighter. Captain, you still leading? Ethan nods, serious as a referee. He looks down at the left brace, fingers hovering over the buckle. A ripple moves through Daniel's body. He does not move his feet. Nia crouches nearby, hands on her own knees, making no grab for the hardware. You can choose to keep it on, she says, like she's offering a snack. You can choose to loosen it. You can choose to try without, with me near. All three are leadership. Ethan swallows. The room hushes. He slides the top strap loose, then the next. Jax holds his breath. The pajama cape kid whispers, he's going rogue, awed. Ethan stops. I want, Dad? He glances at the glass. Daniel opens the door just enough to be heard, not seen by the cameras. I'm right here, he says. And, because he's learning too, adds, and you're the one who decides. Ethan nods like a judge. One more buckle. The brace comes off with a hollow clink. His leg looks small without it, pale where the sun hasn't touched. He sets his bare foot on the marley. The whole room leans forward, and then, catching itself, leans back. Let him own it. Okay. Ethan whispers to his leg, to the floor, to gravity itself. He shifts weight, wobbles, doesn't reach for anything. For one heartbeat, he's standing on that side with nothing but muscle, will, and the memory of moving. He takes one step. It's messy. It's not pretty. It is his. The room erupts, not like a crowd, but like popcorn, pops of laughter, claps that stop before they turn into a show. Nia's eyes shine, and she keeps her hands to herself. Daniel's mouth opens. A sound that might be a sob or a laugh escapes before he swallows it. He looks down, and a tear darkens his t-shirt like a tiny comet. He doesn't hide it. Dr. Johnson taps her tablet, voice hushed. Latency to initiate down by half. Effect up. Peer initiation. Strong. Then she tucks the tablet away, as if it's rude to measure a miracle for too long. The reporter catches only the echo. Was that a milestone? She asks, trying to peer around the edge of the door. It was Tuesday, Nia says, smiling. And it's Thursday, and it will be whatever day these kids choose to lead. Class moves into cool down. Name one thing your body did that surprised you, Nia says. Roared quieter, Cape Kid says, pleased with his self-control. Stopped when I wanted, the girl in the chair says. Not when the song did. Ethan looks at his own leg like it's a teammate. Tried, he says. The room nods like a jury delivering a favorable verdict. On their way out, Daniel lingers at the donation jar. Crumpled bills, a couple of Sacagawea dollars, a sticky Spider-Man sticker that someone mistook for currency. Donations keep the lights on, Maya says, watching his hands with a bouncer's eye. I know, Daniel says. He pulls out his wallet, hesitates over the black card. Then he tucks it away and feeds the jar something smaller, on purpose. I'll email to set up a meeting about real support, he adds. On your terms. Maya tips an invisible hat. Growth looks good on you. Outside, the reporter lowers her mic, story not quite fitting her template. We'll be in touch for a proper segment, she says, half question, half threat. Schedule it, Nia says. But understand this isn't a miracle factory. It's a room where kids own their movement. You film that, or you film nothing. The reporter nods, writes something that might be rules, and retreats to the van. Ethan leans into Daniel as they reach the car. Can I pick the song in the car too? You can pick the route if you want, Daniel says, unlocking the doors. We'll go the long way by the water. Nia watches them go, then looks at Dr. Johnson, who is suddenly blinking too much. Don't, Nia warns, smiling. You'll start me. Dr. Johnson sniffs. It's just dust. Maya flicks off the cafe lights. The studio exhales. On the wall, the mural feet seem to be in a slightly new place. Back in the Bentley, Daniel's phone buzzes. Rodriguez. Board wants a briefing. Also, are we suing the blog? He types, deletes. Types again. No lawsuits. Draft a statement about consent and community programs. Keep my kid out of it. He hits send. Then he hands the phone to Ethan. DJ? Ethan grins and cues up a song that knows all their names. At the next red light, the reporter's last question resurfaces in Daniel's mind. Are you here to fix your image? He glances at his son in the mirror, leg bare, eyes bright. The answer settles, simple and unmarketable. He's here to learn how to follow. Sunday morning, the Hartman kitchen smells like a memory trying to come back. Daniel stands over a skillet, batter too thick, flipping pancakes that come out lopsided. Lily used to hum Otis while she cooked. He hums nothing and burns the first two. Ethan wheels in, hair wild, grin intact. These are rustic, Daniel says. They're circle adjacent, Ethan says, deadpan. He sprinkles blueberries like he's choosing stars. Daniel's phone buzzes on the counter. Board. Emergency session, 2 p.m. Subject, PR. Liability, new steps. He flips the phone face down. After breakfast, he says, today we take the long way to the studio. Across town, Nia's Sunday math spreads across her table. Last paycheck minus rent, minus utilities, plus a side gig tutoring 2 nights a week equals tight. She writes it down anyway. Maya texts, I'm picking up paint. We're refreshing the mural. Bring coffee and your stubbornness. Dr. Johnson arrives early at the studio with a battered Pelican case. Motion sensors, she says, almost sheepish. Low key. Wristbands. They record range without putting kids in a lab. I got a loaner from a colleague who owes me and also fears me. We keep them optional, Nia says. Data should never talk louder than a kid. She tapes a new sign next to the doorbell in thick marker. This is a consent zone. Ask first. Believe the answer. At 2, Daniel faces a wall of faces framed in tasteful zoom squares. PR does a tidy autopsy of the blog post. Legal presents a neat stack of nightmares labeled "What If?" Finance asks about exposure. Rodriguez, to her credit, just watches Daniel. "We're not issuing threats," Daniel says. "Our statement is about consent. No kids' names. No images. If a formal segment happens later, it's on the studio's terms. Meanwhile, I want the foundation to evaluate a grant." "A grant to the place that got you on page 6? A board member asks, voice velvet over steel. "A grant to a program that got my son to lead," Daniel says. He can hear Lily in his spine, steadying him. "We passed on them last spring. That was a mistake." PR sighs theatrically. Legal mutters about due diligence. Rodriguez leans into her camera. "Bring the director to present," she says. "Tuesday, 10. If you're serious, put her in the room." "I'll ask," Daniel says, and means ask, not summon. It feels like learning a new verb. Late afternoon, he drives to Bayview with Ethan asleep in the passenger seat, leg propped on a rolled sweatshirt, brace buckled loose. New Steps is closed on Sundays, but the door is open. Maya is standing on a step stool, repainting the mural's border, turquoise, turning old white into water. "You're breaking and entering," she says, without looking down. "I brought contraband." Daniel lifts a box from the trunk. Heavy-duty folding chairs that won't pinch small fingers, a toolbox, a rug to cover the draft by the door. Nia appears from the back, paint-smeared sweatshirt, and a grin he hasn't seen before, the one reserved for people who show up unannounced with useful things. "You planning to fix capitalism with an Allen key?" "Starting with the wobbly bar in the corner," he says. They work quietly, Ethan waking and drifting inside, like a cat finding a sun patch. Nia hands him a fat chalk, and he doodles a tiny brace on one of the painted feet. He gives the foot a cape. Maya makes a pleased sound. Dr. Johnson straps a sensor on Nia's wrist and another on her own, tests a sequence, nods. "We'll invite families next week. Opt-in only. We'll have IRB language ready." Daniel pauses. IRB is a term he respects because he can't buy it into being faster. "If you receive foundation funds, what do you want it to look like?" he asks, voice careful. "I need specifics." Nia wipes a smear of turquoise from her knuckle, thinking. 3 lanes, she says. 1. Operations, rent, staff, insurance, scholarships. 2. A research partnership under Dr. Johnson's oversight. Clean consent, open methods, no branding kids' lives. 3. A capital reserve toward a permanent site so our lease isn't a countdown to panic. And, she adds, autonomy. No advisory committee that can overrule programming. No PR campaigns featuring kids. No brought to you by banners on our mirrors. Daniel lets the list land. It's not a pitch. It's a boundary map. "We can structure an unrestricted grant to your nonprofit with a separate research agreement to the university," he says slowly. "I'll fight for it." He looks at Nia. "You present to the foundation Tuesday?" "I'll come," she says, meeting his eyes. "But I won't perform gratitude. I'll explain the work. They can decide if they want to be brave." "Fair," he says, and a smile flares before he can manage it. Ethan might sit in. "Only if he wants to," Nia says. Not because his presence makes adults behave. They break for pizza at the folding table that wobbles less now that Daniel wedged it. Ethan picks olives off and flicks them into Maya's box as payment for the cape he added to the wall. The room Feels like a body at rest. Warm, used, loved. On the way home, Ethan stares at the apartment stairs like a puzzle he can't stop thinking about. I want to try one, he says, voice threaded with stubbornness. Daniel's hands twitch, the impulse to hover, to spot, to pre-catch. He inhales. Okay, he says. I'm right here. What's the plan? One step, Ethan says. You don't touch unless I say. He plants the good foot, slides the other up, muscles humming, jaw set. He wobbles, finds his center, breathes, and straightens. One step. He beams like someone who just bought himself an inch of sky. Daniel whoops, too loud for the hallway. A neighbor opens a door and smiles despite herself. Big day? She asks. Big inch, Daniel says, and they both laugh because that's exactly what it is. His phone buzzes as they reach the door. Rodriguez, confirmed for Tuesday. Also, flag, Riverside manager on a podcast calling your server unprofessional and dangerous, threatening to protect standards legally. Daniel stares at the screen, the old heat rising. He thinks of Peterson's hissed ballroom. He thinks of a kid's hand held out in a room that charges extra for breathing, and the woman who said yes. He types, "Don't respond. We won't punch down. Draft a line about dignity of service work and re-educating ourselves. Also, find me a list of restaurants with ramps and soul." He pockets the phone and looks at Ethan, who is proudly eyeing his conquered step like a mountain. Tomorrow, Ethan says. 2 steps. Captain's call, Daniel answers. Back in Bayview, Nia locks up the studio and tucks her notebook under her arm. On the door, under the consent zone sign, a new paper has been slid between the jamb and the frame. She reads it once, then again. Notice. Property owner will be conducting inspection for code compliance. Potential repairs required. Access needed this week. Maya reads over her shoulder. Since when does our absentee landlord care? Dr. Johnson's mouth is a hard line. Since you went viral for saying no to the wrong people. Nia folds the notice, slides it into the notebook at a tab that didn't exist this morning. She writes a new one in thick marker, landlord. Tuesday, we present, she says. Tonight we rest. Tomorrow, we make a plan. She flips the studio lights off. The mural glows in the afterimage. Feet stepping forward, 1 inch at a time, into whatever comes next. Monday came, dressed as a test. Fog peeled off the bay and clung to the Bayview blocks like a sweater nobody asked for. Nia arrived at New Steps early, balancing keys, coffee, and a list headlined, Tuesday, Win or Survive. Maya was already inside, hair up in a scarf, phone wedged between shoulder and cheek. Yes, Mr. Patel, we'll be here, she said to the landlord's property manager. You said noon? Great. We'll roll out the red carpet and the fire extinguisher. She hung up and made a face. He's bringing a consultant. Consultant like clipboard and laser measure, Nia asked, or consultant like lawyer with cologne? Option C, both. Dr. Johnson walked in with her tote and a stack of manila folders. I printed an executive summary for the foundation, she said, handing Nia a tidy packet. Plain English, 2 charts, 0 buzzwords. Nia flipped through. The graphs were simple lines that rose slowly. Latency down. Initiation up. Proof that looked like patience. Perfect, she said, meaning it. By 10, they had a plan. Nia would talk about the room and its rules. Dr. Johnson would explain the science. Maya would answer parent questions if any board member wanted to be a person. Nia practiced aloud, pacing the floor she knew better than her own kitchen. We don't correct kids. We follow. We measure, but we don't let numbers make decisions humans should. Autonomy is the intervention. Stop, Maya said, grinning. You sound like yourself. Keep that. Across the city, Daniel sat in his office with Rodriguez and a whiteboard. The board's conservative, she said, uncapping a marker. Not politically, financially. They want risk packaged in velvet. We can pitch unrestricted funds if we anchor it to outcomes and oversight. Oversight, that isn't control, Daniel said. The word felt new in his mouth and right. They set goals, not choreography. Rodriguez arched an eyebrow. Look at you talking like a person. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Mr. Hartman, this is Peter. He hung up before Peterson's last name could sour the air. He blocked the number and texted PR. If Riverside smears the server, we respond with grace. Offer to sponsor staff training on disability etiquette. No blood sport. At noon, a white SUV pulled up in front of new steps. A property manager in a blazer climbed out with a man who wore a too-tight smile and carried a rolling case. The manager introduced himself, Ravi Patel, handshake like a stapler, and the consultant, Mr. Crane, Fire Life Safety Solutions. Crane unsnapped his case like he was opening bad news. We're here to help you get into compliance, he said, which sounded a lot like, we're here to build a paper trail. Nia stood a little taller. We love compliance. We also love notice. You gave us 18 hours. Patel smiled as if he were smelling money. We value our tenants. We just don't want incidents. Maya crossed her arms. Incidents like children dancing? Crane's laser measure blinked red against the ceiling. Exit signage is not illuminated to code. He pointed at the back door. Bookcase partially obstructs egress. He aimed at the front. Threshold has a lip that may impede wheelchair clearance. We'll move the bookcase now, Nia said calmly. The sign works. We'll replace batteries. The lip was here when we signed the lease. Patel clicked his pen. The building wasn't intended for assembly uses. Your lease lists light office. Nia felt heat rise in her neck. We've been here 4 years. You cashed every check and waved from your SUV. Crane pulled a form from the case. We'll need you to suspend group sessions until the items are remedied. Liability is, hold up, Maya said. We have ADA ramps. We have occupancy under the posted limit. We have parents, not pyrotechnics. You two approached us after a news van showed up. We're not naive. Patel's smile thinned. Either you address this list, or we reevaluate the tenancy. Nia looked at the checklist. Some fixes were cheap. Batteries, reflective tape, moving furniture. Some were not. The threshold grind, a panic bar for the back door. Money, time, and city permits in that order. She inhaled, slow and deep. We'll fix what's ours to fix by Friday. For structural changes, you're responsible as the owner. We'll put it in writing. Crane hesitated. There it was, a sliver of honest. She's right on that, he murmured. Patel's eyes flicked, calculating. We'll see what we can do. See faster, Maya said sweetly. They left with their laser and their list, promising follow-up emails that would arrive at inconvenient hours. The door shut, and the studio felt smaller for a second, then steadied. All right, Nia said, landing back in herself. We triage. Maya grabbed a Sharpie and wrote fix board across the list. Dr. Johnson pulled out her phone. I'll call a friend in building inspection who owes me a favor from 1998. It's time to spend it. Ethan pushed through the door then, Daniel behind him, with a roll of blue painter's tape and a look that said he'd fight a wall if it got in the way. "We're early," he said. "We brought tape." "You brought hope," Maya said. "We'll use both." Nia crouched to Ethan's level. "Captain, want a job? Mark a path from door to door where the bookcase used to be. You decide the line. Straight, wavy, whatever makes your brain happy." He lit up and set to work, laying a river of blue that curved and straightened where his body told him to. Jax arrived and took the end of the tape like a relay baton. The pajama cape kid announced, "This is the emergency dance lane," solemn as a judge. Daniel met Nia's eyes over the bobbing heads. "We'll get your threshold ground down," he said. "I'll pay for it, quietly." "Quietly is my favorite adverb," Nia said. "Thank you." At 4, class began under the humming exit sign, now blazing bright. "House rule," Nia said, clapping once. "We honor boundaries, even the boring ones. Today, we make space, and we also watch our corners." They moved. Small steps, chosen ones. Ethan led with a new trick. Pause, breathe, decide. It looked like nothing from the outside, like everything from the center. During water break, Daniel practiced his own pause. "Tomorrow," he said to Nia, "the foundation. If they try to pin you to a wall, metrics, scale, brand, I'll cut in." "You won't need to," Nia said. "But it's nice to know you'd follow my lead." He laughed, surprised at how easy it came. After class, Patel's email landed like a pebble in a glass. Attached, deficiency list. "Please confirm suspension of group use until rectified." Nia read it twice, jaw set. She typed back, "We will address itemized issues on our timeline within code and lease obligations. Group sessions continue with mitigations in place. See attached plan." She hit send before fear could edit her. Night settled. They coiled cords and stacked chairs that didn't wobble anymore. Nia packed the foundation summary, the landlord notice, her stubbornness. At the door, Daniel hesitated. "Tomorrow's big," he said, voice low. "Tomorrow's just Tuesday," Nia said. "And Tuesday is when we choose." He nodded, kissed Ethan's hair without thinking, and left with his son and the roll of painter's tape, a talisman now. When the lights clicked off, the exit sign glowed like a small, honest moon. The blue lane snaked across the floor, a path invented by a kid who had decided that leading sometimes looked like making sure everyone could get out safe. Elevator doors parted like a curtain, and Tuesday arrived with its hand out. The Hartman Foundation's conference floor smelled like polished wood and coffee strong enough to confess. Frosted glass spelled out values in tasteful lowercase. Nia walked between Rodriguez and Dr. Johnson, flats clicking, hair pulled back like she meant business, and didn't need to say so. In the boardroom, San Francisco laid itself flat beyond the windows. 12 trustees, one long table, carafes sweating. Daniel stood at the far end, not at the head, per bylaws, jacket off, sleeves rolled, trying to look like just a dad who happened to control the agenda. Rodriguez murmured, "Remember, they like brave if it comes with receipts." "We brought both," Nia said, sliding a thin folder onto the table. Program overview, consent policy, 3 charts that rose like slow daylight. Introductions, then the ritual throat clearing. PR did a preamble about recent attention. Legal intoned about guardrails. Rodriguez gestured for Nia. "New Steps is not a miracle factory," Nia began. Voice steady, palms open. "It's a room where kids lead movement on their terms. We don't correct. We follow. We measure agency, how fast they initiate, how often they choose, how their faces change when the room belongs to them. Dr. Johnson took the relay smoothly. We're piloting a simple, non-invasive rubric. Latency to initiate is dropping. Self-selected movement is up. Affect markers are trending positive. The method is autonomy forward. The brain responds to owning the action, not performing for approval. A trustee with perfect silver hair leaned in. How do you scale a feeling? You don't, Nia said. You scale the conditions that allow it. Boundaries, consent, trained staff, a room that doesn't punish imperfection. That's our model. Another trustee, navy suit, cufflinks that matched his skepticism, tapped the folder. Your lease says light office use. Your landlord has concerns. Nia's jaw ticked before she let the breath out. Our landlord had no concerns for 4 years. He developed concerns 72 hours after a news van parked outside. We received a deficiency list yesterday. We're addressing tenant items this week. Structural items fall to ownership. Cufflinks smiled a small, sharp smile. You'll suspend group sessions until remediation? No, Nia said. We'll mitigate and proceed. We've increased exits, cleared egress, posted occupancy, and formalized an emergency lane designed by our students. Group sessions are the intervention. A whisper traveled the table. Daniel kept his eyes neutral and his hands off his instincts. Silver hair cleared his throat. If this board funds you, there will be reputational overlap. We're not in the business of underwriting risk. Dr. Johnson's cane clicked once against the polished floor, punctuation made audible. You're in the business of underwriting courage, if your mission statement still means anything. Silence. Somewhere, a seagull hit the window with its reflection and recovered. Daniel leaned into his mic, careful. I'm recusing myself from vote and allocation per conflict policy, but I can attest as a parent, this room and this team changed the way my son sees himself. We passed on their grant last spring. That was my mistake. A younger trustee with a Notion doc open asked, "What are you asking for?" 3 lanes, Nia said. Calm as Sunday. Unrestricted operating to stabilize the studio. A research agreement with Dr. Johnson's lab. Open methods, clean consent, no branding kids. And a capital reserve toward a permanent space so a lease can't yank the rug out. Autonomy preserved. No advisory veto over programming. No naming rights on our mirrors. PR winced. You won't accept naming rights? We'll accept gratitude, Nia said. We won't turn children into signage. The chairwoman, sharp bob, kinder eyes than she let on, folded her hands. Proposal on the table, a 2-year unrestricted grant, plus a separate research contract, contingent on basic safety compliance documented by a neutral inspector. No branding, quarterly reporting on outcomes you define. Board liaison for support, not control. Cufflinks lifted an eyebrow. And occupancy suspension until compliance is certified. Denied, Nia said before Daniel could react. We'll adjust, not pause. Our kids are not a faucet you turn off while lawyers stretch a timeline. Rodriguez leaned forward. Alternate contingency. Proceed with mitigations while inspection is queued. Foundation provides emergency funds for tenant-side fixes immediately, and escrows owner-side work with milestones. If neutral inspector flags a life safety red line, classes move outdoors or to a temporary site we help secure. The chairwoman looked at Nia. Could you live with that? Nia glanced at Dr. Johnson. The older woman nodded once. Fair. Yes, Nia said, with the caveat that temporary site does not mean a stage for cameras. Noted, the chairwoman said. Let's vote. Hands rose. Yes. 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 A hesitant yes. Two noes. Cufflinks. An artful abstain. Eyes moved to the chairwoman. Daniel stared out at the city and said nothing, because that was his job. Before she could speak, Rodriguez's phone buzzed and buzzed again. She palmed it, frowned, slid it to Daniel. A text from Maya sat on the lock screen. A photo attached. A bright orange notice slapped on the studio door. Notice to correct. Cease group assembly pending inspection. 72 hours. Daniel's face went cold. The sender line under the city's logo read, Crane and Associates acting as owner's agent. The same consultant. A second photo. A white SUV idling. Patel in the passenger seat, eyes on the camera. Nia saw the picture from Daniel's side of the table and didn't blink. Looks like our landlord found a new way to say hello. Cufflinks cleared his throat. That modifies risk. The chairwoman took a breath and let it out through a decision. Contingent approval stands. We release emergency funds today. Rodriguez, can you assemble a compliance SWAT? Permits. Pro bono code counsel, a reputable inspector who isn't on someone's payroll? On it, Rodriguez said, already typing. And I'll call a friend at building inspection who actually works for the city. Cufflinks opened his mouth. The chairwoman closed it with a look. Mr. Lansing, if your commercial real estate firm has any connection to this owner, disclose it now. He lifted his hands. Porcelain innocent. Pure coincidence that we've done deals. I'll abstain from further conversation. Nia stood. Then, we'll go fix what's ours, make noise where it's yours, and keep the room open. Because some of our kids count Tuesdays like lifelines. The chairwoman nodded. Grant approved. Contingent terms as stated. Ms. Brooks, Dr. Johnson, thank you. Mr. Hartman, you may now be a dad. They stepped out into the corridor where the city looked less domesticated. Daniel exhaled a laugh edged with fury. He used the same consultant. Bullies love templates, Nia said. So do systems. We'll bring our own. Her phone buzzed. A second photo from Maya. Ethan, in front of the orange notice, blue painter's tape in his hand, outlining a rectangle around the paper like he was framing a problem. Under it, Maya's text. He says, we can step around it. Nia smiled despite the knot in her chest. Captain's got ideas. Then we match him, Daniel said. You go rally the room. I'll go make calls I should have made months ago. They split at the elevator, two fronts on the same fight. The doors closed, reflecting their faces back at them. Tired, stubborn, a little bit lit from the inside. Down in the lobby, Daniel's phone rang. A voice he recognized oiled through the speaker. Mr. Hartman. Peterson here. About that staff training offer. Also, some investors from my side happen to know your landlord. Perhaps there's a way to make this go away, at a price. Daniel looked at the ceiling and smiled a new kind of smile, the kind that says the game just changed. We're done making things go away, he said. We're going to make them better. He hung up and stepped into the street, where the wind off the bay felt like a dare. By noon, Bayview was buzzing like a hive someone had gently knocked. New Steps' door wore the orange notice. Beneath it, Ethan's neat rectangle of blue tape turned the threat into a picture frame. People noticed. A flower shop from down the block sent a potted snake plant for clean air. A taqueria dropped off foil pans of rice and beans for strength. Parents arrived early, hands full, extension cords, batteries, a fire extinguisher donated by a cousin who worked construction. Consent zone and community zone, Maya said, stacking the gifts by the front desk. We could start a country. Nia moved through the studio with a checklist. Fresh batteries blinked the exit sign awake. A laminated floor map showed the blue tape, emergency dance lane. The bookcase was gone, replaced by a low rack that didn't dare block a door. Dr. Johnson arrived with clipboards and a copy of the city's code, dog-eared and righteous. Daniel pushed the threshold with his toe. Contractor's coming at 5, he said. He'll grind the lip down and install a temporary ramp until the permanent plate is in. He'll bill me. Quietly. Favorite adverb, Nia repeated, and meant it. At 3, parents gathered for a 5-minute huddle. Nia stood where everyone could see her face. Here's where we are, she said. We've corrected tenant items. We've requested owner-side fixes. The foundation released emergency funds this morning to keep us stable while the rest gets sorted. If a city inspector arrives, we'll show them our plan. If anyone who is not a city inspector tells you to leave, you don't panic. We follow our safety plan, not their timeline. A mom raised her hand. If we have to step outside, can we use the church lot across the alley? The pastor said yes, Maya said, holding up a text thread with a thumbs-up emoji and 3 doves. Blessings and cones. Ethan tugged Daniel's sleeve. Can I try 2 stairs today before class? Daniel's throat tightened. You're the captain, he said, and the words came easier now. They stepped to the stairwell. Ethan set his good foot, lifted the other, wobbled, found center, rose. Step 1, breath. Step 2. He exhaled laughter, like a secret that had finally told itself. Okay, big 1.5 inches, Daniel whispered, forehead pressed to the cool paint, eyes burning in the good way. Back on the floor, class began under cafe lights that hummed like bees. Rule review, Nia called. Nobody gets corrected. You can copy, you can invent, and breathing counts. Today we also practice pause and check. If something feels off, we stop and ask. That's leadership. Ethan chose the first song, something with hand claps, and started them with a tiny weight shift that asked more than it told. The kids answered by inventing. The room became a conversation without words. Halfway through, a white SUV rolled to the curb. Patel sat passenger, Crane at the wheel. They did not get out. They watched. Nia clocked them in the mirror, then looked away. Attention is a currency she refused to spend. At 3:43, a second car pulled up. Older, city logo on the door. A woman in a gray blazer stepped out with a clipboard and a calm that felt earned. She knocked once and waited to be invited, which told Nia a lot. City building inspection, she said, when Maya let her in. Officer Camacho. Got a complaint about assembly use. Thought I'd see for myself. Nia handed her the plan packet, the same neat folder from the foundation meeting with an extra map paper-clipped on. Tenant corrections done. Owner duties requested in writing. Temporary mitigations documented. Emergency egress lane marked by our students. Camacho walked the space with a practiced eye, reading exits, checking for clutter, measuring the threshold with a tape she'd owned long enough to trust. She nodded at the snake plant. Nice, she murmured. Green helps people breathe. Through the window, Patel gestured to Crane, like a director annoyed his crew wasn't getting the shot. Crane stayed put, thumbs tight on the wheel. And class? Camacho asked, glancing toward the ring of kids. In session, Nia said. If you need us to step outside, we can use the church lot. But we'd like to finish here if the mitigations satisfy. Camacho looked at the blue lane, Ethan's tape turning necessity into choice. She looked at the exit sign, the cleared door, the back bar the contractor had delivered ahead of schedule, and Daniel had installed with a socket wrench and a prayer. She looked at the children, who were too busy owning their bodies to perform for a stranger. "Proceed," she said. "Document what's pending. I'll file owner notices on the structural items. If anyone other than the city posts something that says cease, call this number." She slid a card to Maya, who pocketed it like a talisman. The ring shifted into cool down. "Name one boundary you chose," Nia said. "Didn't copy when I didn't want to," Jack said. "I asked for space and got it," the girl in the chair said. "I paused first," Ethan said, chin high. Applause popped like quiet fireworks. Camacho cracked a smile that made her look younger. "Good rule," she said, tapping the laminated consent zone sign on her way out. At the curb, she paused by Patel's SUV and wrote something on her clipboard too slowly for it to be a warning. "Did we just win a Tuesday?" Maya whispered. "We won a breath," Nia said. "We'll take it." The contractor arrived at 5 with a grinder that screamed like a dragon. He taped off the door, set up a vacuum, and shaved the threshold until the lip gave up. Daniel held the shop light. Sparks haloed the entry like a cheap miracle. When it was done, Maya rolled the girl's chair through the door and back. "Smooth as butter," she announced, triumphant. "Owner item down." Temporary bars installed, exit signs lit, panic hardware ordered. The contractor ticked off, wiping his hands. Permanent ramp plate tomorrow. Patel's SUV was gone by then, the orange notice still framed in blue, but now curling at the corners. Crane had sent one email, full of vague threats, and copied legal like a spell. Rodriguez replied with statutes, city contacts, and a line that read, "Owner obligations attached for your convenience." At close, the room looked like itself again, only more so. The mural seemed to have gained a foot without anyone lifting a brush. Daniel lingered at the door, while Ethan spun the last of the painter's tape into a loose ball. Officer Camacho was decent, he said, like the discovery deserved to be said aloud. "Most people are until they're scared," Nia said. "We try to keep fear small." They turned off the cafe lights. The exit sign glowed an honest green. Out on the sidewalk, a third car idled, unfamiliar, windows dark. Nia felt the hairs on her arm lift. "You expecting anyone?" she asked Daniel. He shook his head, posture tightening, father instincts stepping forward the way they do. The rear window rolled down. A voice called, light and expensive. "Ms. Brooks? Got a minute to talk about a lease?" And that's when Nia recognized the cufflinks in the glow of the streetlight. The window slid down far enough to show a smile, and those ridiculous cufflinks, blue enamel that matched nothing but his certainty. "Elliot Lansing," he said, like a password. "You met my abstention this morning." Nia didn't step closer. Streetlight, open sidewalk, witnesses. She'd learned that grammar working nights. Daniel shifted slightly, so Ethan was behind his hip and in his line of sight. "Mr. Lansing," Daniel said, "board members usually email." "Board members also usually like solvable problems," Lansing replied. "I represent Meridian Urban, your landlord's lender, partner, therapist. Pick a noun. The building's in play. Your lease complicates." "Complicates what?" Nia asked. "A sale," he said, unbothered. "Cash wants a quick close. Your orange decor scares cash." Nia glanced at the notice framed in Ethan's tape. "So you had your guy post a cease to goose the timetable. He didn't bother denying it. Look, I came with a fix. There's an empty storefront 3 blocks north. ADA compliant. Fresh permits. Zero drama. Meridian holds the master lease. We could fast-track a sublease by Friday. Market rent? No, Nia said. You haven't heard the price. I heard the strings, she said. Who holds the keys? Who gets to say off when we say on? Lansing's smile thinned. You don't have leverage, Ms. Brooks. Your landlord can drag you through months of inspections and legal fees. Your program bleeds out. Or you take a clean space and we all go home. Daniel felt the old muscle twitch. Make the deal. Save the calendar. Call it leadership. He caught Nia's profile, jaw set, eyes level, and made himself breathe. If Meridian is the money behind the owner, you also carry the owner's obligations, he said, voice even. Thresholds, panic bars, life safety. You want a quick close? Fix your building. We'll stay out of your way by doing exactly what we do, running a lawful class. And if we don't? Lansing asked, curious now. Then see you at building inspection, Daniel said, surprising himself with how calm he sounded. And probably at the Chronicle. Consent, community, kids' rights. It's sticky PR. Lansing considered, then shrugged. Or we skip the dance and I fund a nicer version across town with a director who says thank you. I can franchise Heartwarming. Ethan's voice piped up, small and clear. It's not a franchise. Lansing finally looked at him. And you are? The captain, Ethan said, not blinking. Something in Daniel unclenched. You heard him. A beat. Lansing weighed the optics against his appetite. He changed tack. I'll put the other space on hold through tomorrow. If you change your mind, my number's on the card. He extended it between 2 fingers. Nia didn't take it. Daniel did, because paper is a receipt and leverage later. Last thing, Lansing added, smile returning. We'll be back with a locksmith Friday at noon if that inspection comes back ugly. Would be a shame to have to change the locks with kids watching. Would be illegal without due process, Nia said. Officer Camacho left her card. We'll invite her to the dance. Lansing's eyes flicked, just once. He rolled the window up on an unfinished thought, and the sedan slid away, tidy as a threat. Inside, Maya let out the breath she'd been holding against the glass. Did he really say franchise Heartwarming? I suddenly understand cufflinks. Dr. Johnson joined them from the back, cane ticking war on the concrete. They expect you to flinch, she said. They misread the room. She looked at Ethan. Captain, you want to help write a plan that makes lock changing look ridiculous? Ethan nodded, solemn as a judge. They made a list at the folding table. Tonight, photograph every fix. Send Camacho the file. Tape the egress lane brighter. Draft a community open letter about consent and safety. Confirm the church lot as an alternate site and lay out cones. Tomorrow, call parents, explain options. Recruit volunteers for door and water. Ask the flower shop to lend fans if heat drives them outside. Friday. If someone arrives with a locksmith, they arrive to a class, a pastor, a city inspector, and a dozen reporters invited by Nia on her terms. No kid faces without consent. A podium that says, consent zone in block letters big enough for TV. Daniel thumbed Lansing's card and felt a rare, useful anger. Meridian's debt position will be public somewhere, he said to Rodriguez over the phone. Find it. If they're holding paper on a building that's out of code, there's a story. I'm on it, she said. And the Foundation Council is drafting a letter reminding Meridian and the owner of obligations. It uses the word retaliatory 4 times. Make it 5, Daniel said. Ethan tugged his sleeve. Can we sleep here? He asked, like a kid at a museum overnight. Maya lit up. A lock-in. We used to do that at church youth group. Rules. No glitter, no loud music after 10, lots of snacks. Nia hesitated, looked at Dr. Johnson. The older woman nodded. You turn fear into community before fear turns you into a headline. By 9, the studio was a campsite. Parents spread blankets. The taqueria sent tortillas and a pan of something that smelled like courage. The pastor arrived with thermoses and a soft laugh that filled corners. Camacho texted back a thumbs up and, on call if anyone tries cute. Under the cafe lights, Nia gathered the room. We're here because staying together is a boundary too, she said. If you need to go home, go. If you want to stay, we have floor space and hot chocolate. We'll keep the doors clear and the exits bright. We'll also make a banner. She rolled out butcher paper. The kids painted big block letters, shouting spellings over each other. Consent zone. Your pace, your power. Ethan added a small blue rectangle in the corner, framing it like the notice on the door. He wrote carefully, "We can step around it." Daniel watched his son print each letter, tongue caught in concentration, and thought, this is the board I serve now. Around midnight, while someone told a ghost story that refused to be scary because the room was too kind, Rodriguez texted Daniel a screenshot. Meridian Urban, listed as mezzanine lender. Property flagged for potential sale. Code compliance contingency. Beneath it, another message. Lansing's firm receives fees on close. He has standing conflicts. Chairwoman wants him off the grant committee permanently. Daniel stared at the screen until his eyes blurred, then slid the phone away. We're not moving to his storefront, he told Nia quietly. I know, she said, but thank you for saying it out loud. He lay on a yoga mat between Ethan and a draft of warm air. In the half-dark, the exit sign glowed steady. Somewhere, a grinder whirred in his memory, and sparks jumped like fireflies. At 4 a.m., the city fell silent enough to hear the building whine at the night air. At 6, the first car doors thumped outside. Coffee arrived from the diner that kept its apron hung by the door. The banner dried. The blue tape lane gleamed under new light. At 8, Officer Camacho stood in the doorway with a clipboard and an amused expression. You threw a slumber party for code compliance. We threw one for autonomy. Nia corrected, smiling. Compliance RSVP'd. Camacho lifted the edge of the orange notice, now flanked by kid art and a Bible verse the pastor had taped up like a dare. You know this is going to look terrible on the 6 o'clock news. That's the idea, Maya said. Camacho nodded to the banner. Open house? Open book, Nia said. Class at 4, like always. If someone tries to shut a door, they'll have to do it with half the neighborhood watching. Camacho tucked her card into the frame of the notice like a blessing. Text me if anyone brings a lock. When she left, Ethan looked up at Nia. What's the first move today? Nia glanced at the banner, at the taped lane, at the not quite gone fear that felt smaller in daylight. Pause, she said, then choose. He nodded like a captain receiving weather. Outside, a white SUV turned the corner slow, and behind it, another car Daniel recognized from the Foundation parking lot. Friday was coming. So was the song. By late morning, the block had that something's happening hum. Shop doors propped open. neighbors pretending to sweep their stoops so they could watch. The orange notice still hung on New Steps' door inside Ethan's neat blue frame, now flanked by a banner the kids painted overnight. Consent zone in letters so big, even a passing bus could read them. Nia moved through the studio with a stage manager's calm. Volunteers at the sign-in table, water station by the back door, cones stacked for the church lot. A copy of Officer Camacho's card taped beside the landlord's notice like a rebuttal. Open house, not open season, she told the room. If you're here with a camera, you ask first. If a kid says no, that's the headline. Ethan traced the blue lane with a finger, then looked up. What's my job? You're lane captain, Nia said. If we have to move, you lead the line outside. He saluted, very official. At 3:30, people started arriving. Parents, neighbors, a physical therapist on her lunch break, the pastor with a folding lectern someone had bedazzled with tape. Local press rolled up, and for once, stayed on the sidewalk. Officer Camacho parked across the street, leaned on her car, and sipped coffee like it was a front-row ticket. Daniel showed carrying a flat of clementines and a look that mixed nerves and resolve. He caught Nia's eye. Board counsel drafted letters to the owner and Meridian. Words like retaliation and obligation appear more than once. Favorite nouns, Nia said. Stick around. We may need verbs. At 4, Nia clapped once. Welcome. This is a working class, not a show. We'll do what we do every Tuesday and Thursday. Kids lead, we follow. If something feels off, we pause and check. Consent forms are on the table. Orange stickers mean no filming. If you can't honor that, the church lot is lovely this time of day. On the other side of the cones, a ripple of laughter took the edge off. Ethan picked the first song, hand claps again, and started them with a tiny shift that meant, follow me. The ring answered. Jax added a heel tap. The girl in the chair traced an arc with her wrist. The room became a group text only their bodies could read. 2 SUVs slid to the curb like punctuation. In the first, Patel, face set. In the second, Crane, rolling a case. They stepped out and stopped when they saw Camacho. The officer didn't move, just lifted her chin. Your move. Crane tried charm. Officer, we're here to inspect. You're not the city, Camacho said, sunny. You're welcome to watch from over there. She pointed to the edge of the sidewalk like she'd done this 100 times. If you have paperwork, email it to the address on my card. Please don't block egress. Inside, Nia didn't even flick an eye toward the door. Captain, she prompted. Ethan lifted his foot, waited for the scrape, smiled at the sound like it was a cue only he could hear. Daniel's hands twitched. He kept them at his sides and breathed. Halfway through the second song, the fire alarm screamed. Every adult flinched. 7 different kinds of dread detonating at once. For a second, the room went white around the edges. And then Nia's voice arrived, low and steady. Freeze. Breathe. Lane captain. Report. Ethan's chin went up. Blue lane, he said, pointing to the taped river. We go quiet feet. Chairs first. Maya rolled the girl in the chair to the front. Jax took the rear like a bouncer. The pajama cape kid gathered his cape so it wouldn't trip anybody because leadership has details. Parents fell in behind without chomping the line. Daniel went to the side. Visible, not steering. The pastor propped the back door open. C. Clementines got abandoned without sadness. Bodies mattered more. They moved, not rushed, not hesitant, chosen. Out the back, across the alley, into the church lot, where cones made a bright corral. The alarm still howled. The kids looked up at it the way you look at weather. Nia counted heads twice, then again. Everyone here? Present, Ethan said, voice decisive. Officer Camacho jogged around the corner, already on the radio. False pull, she said after a minute, palm to her earpiece. Panel shows manual activation at front. We'll review footage. Stay put until I clear you. Naya's stomach flipped, anger hot and clean. Through the open bay of the studio, she could see Crane by the door, hands up in performative innocence. Patel stared at his shoes. Daniel walked to the property line and stopped exactly there. You did that with kids in the room, he said, not loud, not polite. Crane bristled. Safety first. Control first? Daniel said. That's what fear calls itself when it forgets its name. Camacho returned, writing as she walked. Panel logs a pull. I'll be requesting the footage. Until then, Mr. Patel, you and your consultant can enjoy the curb. If anyone tries another stunt, my report will read reckless endangerment. She looked at the children gathered in the lot, at Ethan's steady stance. Nice lane work, Captain. Ethan's ears went pink. We practiced, he said. Nia turned to the crowd at the cones. Since we're outside, she said, picking up the lectern with the taped letters, let's do cool down here. She raised her voice just enough for the sidewalk press to hear without feeling invited. Name one boundary you chose today. Didn't run when it screamed, Jack said. I asked to go first, the girl in the chair said, proud. I didn't help unless asked, Daniel said, surprising himself as much as anyone. Ethan considered. I led, he said simply. Applause bubbled and stopped before it became a show. The alarm finally stuttered to silence. Camacho waved them back in with 2 fingers. Panel reset. I'll file the report. Inside, the room felt different. Air scrubbed by adrenaline and community. Nia checked the front pull station. A small red smear marred the plastic. Crane had a matching streak on his knuckle, where he'd gripped the doorframe too tight. She said nothing and snapped a photo for Camacho. By 5, the SUVs had rolled away, trailing the smell of hot brakes and spoiled plans. Parents lingered to stack chairs, leave casseroles, offer credit card points. The flower shop sent another plant. Someone from the barber shop taped a flyer in the window. Block party, Friday 11:30, 1:30. Music. Tacos. No locks. The pastor underlined no with a Sharpie and drew 3 doves for emphasis. Lansing didn't show. He texted Daniel instead. Last chance on the turnkey space. Noon tomorrow, our locksmith will... Daniel stopped reading and forwarded the message to Rodriguez and Camacho with a single line. Please advise. Rodriguez replied, already drafting a restraining letter. City Council looped. Camacho CC'd. Camacho added a thumbs up and the words, be there at 11. As the sun slipped, the studio softened back into itself. Ethan and Nia stood at the blue lane. He nudged the tape with his toe. Can we keep it even when this is over? Oh, it stays, Nia said. Some paths are worth keeping because they remind us we built them. Daniel picked up one of the orange stickers from the table, stuck it to his own shirt, then peeled it off and pressed it to the donation jar like a label. Consent, in loud traffic cone letters, right where the money went. Feels right, he said. They closed up just before dark. On the door, Nia taped a new sheet beneath the orange notice. Plain paper, thick marker, class Friday, 12th. Outside, if we have to. Your pace, your power. Under that, smaller. Captain will lead. They stepped into the twilight. A breeze off the bay tugged at the banner inside, making the big letters ripple like a flag. Across the street, Camacho gave a little two-finger salute and headed for her car. "See you at noon," she called. "See you at noon," Naya echoed, and the phrase felt less like a plan than a vow. Daniel buckled Ethan into the car, then paused with his hand on the door. "Tomorrow," he said. "I'll bring the boring stuff. Permits, letters, witnesses." "I'll bring the playlist," Naya said. "And the rules." Ethan grinned. "I'll bring the lane." They laughed, because that was how you practiced courage without getting brittle. And as they drove off, the streetlights bloomed like quiet applause for a block that had chosen, together, to learn the steps. Friday showed up loud and sunlit. By 11, Bayview felt like a parade deciding whether to happen. The barber shop rolled a speaker onto the sidewalk. The taqueria set up a grill that perfumed the block with cilantro and smoke. The church lot wore cones like jewelry. Inside new steps, the banner hung straight. The blue lane gleamed, and the orange notice stayed framed like a museum piece of bad ideas. "Open house and class at noon," Nia told the volunteers. "If anything weird happens, we don't sprint. We organize. Water here, consent forms here, cones there. Lane captain?" Ethan saluted, chest high. "Ready." Daniel arrived in a black t-shirt and dad energy, a folder tucked under his arm. Letters from the Foundation's council, copies for the owner and the mezzanine lender. City codes highlighted. Also, pedestrian snacks. He set down clementines and granola bars like talismans. Officer Camacho parked across the street, clipped her radio to her belt, and strolled over with the calm of a woman who has absolutely seen worse. "Morning," she said. "If anyone tries cute, I write the kind of report that haunts closings." At 11:42, the white SUV rounded the corner. Patel in the passenger seat, face pinched. Behind him, a black sedan. Lansing, cufflinks, and smile. A third van rolled up. Locksmith logo on the door. Men unloading a toolbox the size of a coffin. "Here we go," Maya murmured, lifting the lectern. The pastor gave it an extra pat, like a blessing. Lansing stepped out first, one palm raised in friendly conquest. "Good morning, all. Per notice and lease, locks will be changed only after due process," Camacho said, voice sunny. "And only by order of the city, not a consultant's printer. You brought paperwork for me?" She wiggled her fingers. "Show and tell." Patel swallowed, produced a manila folder. Camacho flipped through, eyebrow arching. "Cute, not binding. Also, you can't change locks on an occupied assembly during a permitted event without a marshal. Guess who's not here?" Lansing's jaw ticked. "We're trying to prevent liability." "You're trying to create it," Daniel said, stepping forward just enough to be heard, not enough to block. He lifted the foundation letter. "Owner obligations, statutory sites, and a note that your mezzanine position is now a matter of public interest. Hi." A murmur wove through the crowd. Neighbors, parents, a local reporter with a mic but a signed consent sheet tucked into her pocket. The locksmiths hovered, suddenly fascinated by their shoelaces. Nia didn't turn toward the men or the mic. She turned toward the room. "Class starts at noon. Orange stickers mean no filming. If anyone can't honor that, enjoy the tacos across the street." She glanced at Ethan. "Captain?" He rolled his shoulders like a small athlete checking weather. "First move is pause," he said, voice steady, eyes on the blue lane. "Then we choose." The speaker clicked on. Hand claps. Sun on mirrors. The ring formed. Ethan lifted his foot, listened for the scrape, found center. Jack's echoed with a heel tap. The girl in the chair drew a slow arc with her wrist, the kind you only attempt when the air feels safe. The room answered with a conversation of motion that had nothing to sell and everything to keep. Outside the door, Lansing tried one more angle. "Ms. Brooks, Meridian has a turnkey space. AD perfect, close by. Take the sublease today. We drop the rest." Naya looked at him like a teacher who has heard every excuse invented. "We don't move because you made a mess," she said. "Fix your building and stop trying to franchise Hart." Laughter, small, delighted, rippled from the parents. Lansing colored. Cufflinks caught the sun like they were trying to change the subject. Camacho's radio crackled. "Copy," she said into it. Then to Patel, "City inspector on the way to confirm owner-side items are in progress. Meanwhile, if your locksmith touches that cylinder, I will be inconvenienced in a manner that becomes part of the record." Patel backed up a step. "Will wait." "Excellent life skill," Maya said brightly from the lectern. "Waiting." Noon rolled over into now. The block party spilled to the curb. Neighbors clapping on twos and fours. Tacos doubling as communion. Clementines passing like bright coins. The reporter got her segment on consent. A tight shot of the sign. A wider one of feet in motion. No kid faces unless a kid and their grown-up said yes twice. Daniel stood at the edge of the ring, practicing his own choreography. Visible, present, unhelpful, unless asked. Pride landed quieter than it used to. Warmer. When Ethan risked a tiny brace-off pivot, just one, Daniel felt his whole chest open and did not move a muscle. The city inspector arrived, jean jacket over a gray polo, clipboard tucked under a tattoo that read, "Patience," in neat script. He took one look at the locksmiths and said, "Nope." He took another, at the panic bar, the ground threshold, the lit exits, the blue lane, and said, "Good." He signed Camacho's sheet with a flourish. "Owner, panic hardware scheduled today, permanent ramp tomorrow, fire alarm pull cover next week, tenant, approved to operate with mitigations." He slapped a green sticker over the orange notice without ceremony. The cheer that went up wasn't loud. It was relieved, collective, exactly the right size. Lansing's smile tried, failed, vanished. His phone buzzed. He checked it, blanched, and looked toward Daniel, then away. Upstairs later, the chairwoman would remove him from every committee with the calm of someone clearing a whiteboard. Patel muttered into his own phone about work orders, finally saying the one sentence that moves mountains. "Yes, we'll pay." Nia set a hand on the banner's edge, steadying it as if it were a sail catching new wind. "Cool down," she called, voice carrying over music and grill smoke. "Name one thing your body chose today." "Stayed when it got loud," Jack said. "Asked for front spot," the girl in the chair said, chin up. "Didn't fix," Daniel said, and the ring laughed with him, delighted. Ethan thought, then smiled like a kid who knew his line. "Lead," he said. "Again?" They rapped. They ate tacos on the curb, orange grease turning napkins into maps. The pastor said a few words, simple and fierce. Dr. Johnson slipped a small envelope to Nia. First tranche from the foundation. A go that made the room feel heavier in the best way. Maya taped the green sticker tighter over the orange until it looked like a lesson. When the crowd thinned, Lansing's sedan was gone. The locksmith van, too. In their place, a flyer slid under the door from the landlord's office. Apologies for miscommunication, a list of scheduled repairs, a 3-year lease extension offer at a reasonable rate. Nia read it, smiled without sweetness, and tucked it under the landlord tab in her notebook, like a bird pinned to a page. We'll have counsel mark it up, she said. Consent applies to contracts, too. Daniel walked to the mural and noticed a new detail. Someone had painted a tiny blue rectangle in the corner, framing the feet like a promise. You keeping the lane? He asked. Always, Nia said. Some paths are there to remind you who built them. They closed the studio with the ordinary tenderness of people who know the extraordinary hides in ordinary. Daniel buckled Ethan in, then paused. We're not done. We're never done, Nia agreed. But we're moving. Ethan leaned out the window. Captain says next week we try 3 stairs. Captain sets the pace, Daniel said, saluting back. The car pulled away. Sunset lit the cafe lights before Nia had a chance to flip the switch, making them glow like they'd learned something. Inside, the green sticker sat solid over the orange. Consent stamped on compliance, story stamped on scare. Sometimes revolutions arrive like thunder. Today, it came as hand claps, tacos, a taped blue line, and a kid who took one more step on his own terms, while a billionaire learned the rarest choreography, how to follow.